as human beings, we are creatures with intrinsic constraints, with certain design structure, right? This is how we are built by evolution, and we inherit the constraints of our upbringing, of our own species, and then the species that we've evolved from, right? Before the great apes, all the other species, right? Back to bacteria or whatever it was, 1 billion years ago. So it must be a way to create this kind of operational framework for enabling evolution within a lifespan, right? Within an individual lifespan. Because we know that evolution works. We know it. It's just that it takes too long. And today I think we have the capability to go beyond this or official pace of evolution that takes millions of years for individuals within a certain species to reach a certain level of consciousness, because ultimately evolution is about consciousness, and how natural can we align ourselves with it and operate from it instead of against it or separate from it. And I will give an example. I think everyone resonates with the natural conflict that arises between humans because of subjective positioning, because of one's own perspective about a topic which is in conflict with another person's point of view. This is just common sense, right? Everyone is experiencing it. Why are we not learning anything from it? Why are we doing it for years and years despite it causing a lot of suffering, actually, most of the time? Especially in close, intimate contexts, within families. It always happens that people don't agree with each other and they find endless reasons to fight with one another, and it never stops. Why no one thinks how unnatural and stupid ultimately this is? I mean, we are family, or we are good friends, and we are fighting all the time. And this is normal. By societal standards, this is normal. It's not an exception. This is the normality. The exception is to have a family where everyone gets along. Right? This is normal. And we are so used to this absurd normality that we don't even take our time to investigate why this is the case. Why is it? Who knows, right? People are throwing in the towel and say, they are difficult. I am misunderstood. They don't get me. There is this generation gap, right, between me and my kids, me and my parents. And while this is true, it's not anything more than an excuse. If you have people that you care about or that care about you, you should not feel threatened by them. You should not feel guilty or ashamed for stating your truth. And I'll come back to this specific element, your truth. You should be open. You should be able to communicate. You should be able to get along, right? That's the natural way of living. I have these close people to me that I see every single day. I want to get along with them. I want to feel happy around them. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel empowered. But that's not normal. So I mentioned about your truth, right? In my opinion, the cause of suffering in life, in the day-to-day, is the complete attachment to one's positioning, to one's truth. And this is not me casting judgment on other people. I'm doing it the same way. I have my own position. I have my own truth. But the point is that in all human interactions, my truth is only relative. It's just one single relative truth from the infinite relative truths available there. As many people, as many truths. My subjective truth, exactly how I see things, cannot be identical to how you see things, even if we are discussing about the same topic. Why? Because I have 38 years almost of very skewed experience of this world against my own belief system, against my own cultures, my own culture, my own values imposed by the culture that I inherited from my parents, from my grandparents, from the society that I grew up in, from the education system, from the friends that I spent my first 5 years with, and then from the next generation of friends, and from the last, few friends that I got in the past years. And everything is merged in a way that is not clearly identifiable in my brain, so as to say, this is the cause, this is the causal chain of why I have this specific view of this point. Nevertheless, I have it. I have an opinion about stuff. And it takes courage and humility, especially from someone like me who was wearing being right as a badge of honor and trying to prove myself to others. It takes courage and humiliation ultimately, and humility, not humiliation, humility, to recognize that my truth is just my truth. And it's not better than your truth. Your view of a certain topic and your understanding about something is, even if only granular, distinct than mine. And that's perfectly normal. And that's perfectly right. And this is, in my opinion, the source of human conflict. I don't agree with your point of view, therefore I fight against you implicitly, right? Because we have this attachment to everything that is ours, starting from a physical possession, a car, a watch, my car, right? If I would see just a normal random car being crashed, outside, I look at the window and I see an accident with two cars, which are not mine, right? Mine. I don't feel an emotional trigger on that. I might be worried to make sure that no one got hurt, but I won't suffer a lot, right? I won't think about it too much. It's like, okay, it's just a car crash. Everyone is fine, not my problem, right? But if someone were to crash into my car that is parked outside of my house, then that would be another story, right? It's my car, right? But only this investigation takes you to a point of absurdity. What makes it my car? The fact that I drive it for a few years, the fact that I have some legal binding to it, which is recognized by some administrative authorities of this country. And if you think about it, there are layers of abstraction concepts all the way through. They seem tangible, they seem very concrete, very specific, right? It's my car, look, I have this document. Okay, but what does it mean? If I just give it to another person, okay, I get some money for it. There is a transfer of, paperwork and ownership, but that's still conceptual. Ultimately, nothing changes. And yet, I release this emotional attachment from that car if I make it, if I transfer it to another person. If someone else owns it, it's not mine anymore. But what does it mean? What does it mean to be mine? The car is the same. It's the same as it was, a few years ago when I bought it. It's the same. It will be the same when I will, give it to another person. The same with the house. The same with everything else for which I feel this attachment. Ultimately, also to human beings in the end. Why is that a problem? The emotional attachment skews our perception and forces us to think from our own self-interest. I care about this because this is my car. This is my house. This is my kid. This is my friend. You are hurting my friend, but you're not hurting my thing. You are hurting that thing, right? Or that person, which implicitly makes it about them. It's not about me, ultimately, right? But we make it about us when we attach the my. So if someone that I feel attached to gets hurt, I get hurt. So the emotional reaction to compensate for that, that negative thing that happened is from an egotistical drive. Why am I giving this example? Because I want to show that your point of view is ultimately your own projection of what's yours. And that could go to an idea also, right? Not to just something tangible or an object like a car or a house, which is tangible. You can touch it, right? It also goes to the conceptual level. An idea, a position, a perspective, a viewpoint. I believe that this political regime is correct. I believe that this religion is the right religion. No other religion is right. This is my religion. I make sense of it. I create my world around myself filled with concepts about how right this idea is, how right this religion is, how right this religion serves me. So now I don't limit myself to just living in alignment with that credo, right, with that religion, but I take it on me to convince you that what I believe to be true is true, that you're wrong, that I'm right and that you're wrong. It's not enough for me to live in peace with my truth. I need to force understanding for you to inherit my truth. And this is the cause of suffering, of course, in terms of human to human relationship. Me forcing a point of view which is not yours just because I believe it to be truer, right? More true than your truth. And if you are not accepting my truth, my point of view, it means that you are not accepting me. It means that you are rejecting me as a whole, not just my idea, but me. Why? Because that idea is mine. It's my positioning. It's something that I'm attached to. It's something that I poured energy into. It's part of me. If you're not accepting my idea, you're not accepting me, therefore I feel rejected. Therefore, ultimately, I don't feel loved. I don't feel validated. I don't feel included. I don't feel enough appreciated. And ultimately, I cannot live with myself, right? I need that appreciation. I need that validation. I need you to validate me so I can validate myself. And this is how the world works. And this is pure madness. This is pure madness. And we have so many intelligent people in this world. And the more intelligent they become, the better narratives they find to fall in this very trap where they believe that their point of view is the right point of view. And this idea about the point of view is something that was very clear for me in the past week. because I went in the south, in France, in holidays, and there was this very nice landscape. And at some point, you are seeing some signs with point of view, right? Like literally a point of view, which means that you go to a certain, um, like path, and then you look at the landscape, right? And you see something nice. And I did it, and we were a group of, I think, 5 people, and we reached this point of view. And from that place, everyone had the same point of view, right? And everyone was seeing the same thing. We were seeing the city, we were seeing the river, we were seeing, the mountain. Everyone was seeing the same thing. There was no contradiction there. There was no contradiction. I was not able to even think about conflict in that point, because we were all in the same place, and we were literally seeing the same thing. And because we were seeing the same thing, the source of contradiction and potential conflict was non-existent. But imagine another group of 5 people were on the other side of the valley, and they were looking at the same thing from their point of view. Of course, they would have had a different point of view than ours. But who was right? Whose point of view was the best one or the correct one? It was the same, right? They were both true. It's absurd if you think about it. Of course, they had a different point of view than we, because we were in a different position. But again, this is something that is tangible, but it goes also to psychological aspects. Point of view is just your own mental state and framing about something. And it's normal to have points of view, because if everything would be unknown, you would feel unsafe, scared. You cannot predict the future, and you have to predict the future in order to feel safe. You need to have some sort of pattern recognition and ability to anticipate what will happen. This is how we evolved. This is how the brain works. The brain is a projection machine. It's an anticipation machine. It needs to know what happens. And even if it's wrong, it's, better to be safe than sorry. That's why when you go on a path in the dark and you see something shaped like a snake, you jump first, and then you realize it was just a rope, right? Because it's better to predict from a pure survival point of view. It's better to predict wrongly that that thing is a snake and to not be a snake, than to actually be a snake and start to think about it maybe not being a snake after it bites you, right? And this is how we evolved. And we inherit this animalistic drive, if you want. We don't want to acknowledge it, because we look at ourselves as this most, glorious species of animals. We are not even calling ourselves animals. We are like this amazing creation. And we are. But not because we don't inherit like 1 billion years of animalistic in inheritance. We are special in a way exactly because we can have this kind of reasoning, and we can understand our own limitations. And then because we understand our own limitations, compassion and humility come as a byproduct. The more open you are to someone else's point of view, the more you have to realize that you don't know anything, almost, right, from that person's point of view. You ultimately know nothing, right? What you know, it's so tiny and so skewed and so distorted that in the grand scheme of things means that literally you know nothing. You might have your own right version of truth that you navigate your life around, and you need it again so you can anticipate what happens next. But this is ultimately not the truth. It's your manufactured truth, ultimately, to guide you towards life. Sometimes you don't even get to decide, right? In the case when you would jump from seeing a rope, you will not even make a decision there. You would jump first, and then you will say, it's just a rope, it's not a snake. Did you make that decision? No, you jumped first. Then you reason, you bring up logic, you bring the prefrontal cortex, the new real estate in the brain, to start to reason, why you jumped. Oh, I jumped because I thought it was a snake. Yes, but you didn't think about it. You jumped first out of animalistic instinct. And then you reasoned, it was not a snake. Okay. But if we get humbled by our own structural design and realize how limiting our understanding of the world is, and that we are all inheriting this very condition of being a flawed human being with limited understanding of an ultimately ununderstandable world. The world is so complex that we cannot possibly really understand it to the most granular way. You go deep dive into any object and you find immense complexity in the molecular structure, and then the atoms, and then the gluons, and whatever all other particles are there. And then you zoom out and you get the Earth, you get the solar system, you get the galaxies, you get all sorts of clusters of galaxies, and like billions of years of light years away. And our brain simply cannot comprehend this kind of scales and this kind of gradation and the complexity inherent at all the different scales. And we build naturally our own version of truth as we go along in life to understand better the world around us. But there are stages, right, in one person's evolution, and those stages, I think, become our own responsibility in life, because by going through them, they allow us ultimately to understand ourselves better, to be more inclusive, to not cast judgment when someone doesn't understand my point of view. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. And I'm not judging you from not understanding my point of view. I do my best to explain why I believe this to be true for me. And if it makes sense for you, good. If it doesn't make sense for you, I don't take it on me, right? I don't take it on me to convince you of anything. I share my truth. I operate from good intention, and I do the best I can to navigate this world in a way that serves everyone in it to the best of my abilities, including myself, of course. And that's the best I can do. One last example to give you an idea about what perception is and how we are actually seeing, like literally seeing the world in a way that is sometimes distorted. And yet, if we would not be able to contrast it with something else, we would not be able to see that it's distorted. Concretely, I was driving and I had these glasses, right, with like tinted lens, with colored lens. And I was looking normally, like you look, right, through the glasses at the road ahead. And it just became my default way of looking, of seeing, right? I was seeing the road. Yes, I was seeing the road through the glasses, but it was just the road at some point, right? It was not, okay, I have glasses or not. And then I was looking in the mirror, first to look at my kids who are in the back. And then I saw my face in the mirror and the glasses on my face. And then the road ahead in the reflection from my glasses. And that reflection was so accurate that to a point I was able to even drive by looking at that reflection, and And it felt so natural in a way. But then I realized how distorted ultimately that is, right? Because at the first glance it's like, okay, but life non-distorted is me looking at it without glasses, right? This is not distorted at all, right? I can see it directly. And is distorted if, in this case, I look at life, right, at the road ahead. So I was looking at the road ahead through the lenses of my glasses. In the mirror, the mirror was reflecting the road, right, from the reflection of my glasses. And that was integrated by my brain and was made sense of in terms of this is actually what you're seeing. So it was like a lot of reflection there, but it was still the road ahead in a way, right? So which way of seeing was truer? Which was more distorted than the other? Both were reflecting the road. Why the one in the mirror was more distorted? The point here, of course, is to make that ultimately also what I'm seeing with my eyes is as distorted as all the reflection that came from my glasses through the mirror and back to me. It's just, in that case, there was just this kind of, filter on top. I had the glass lens, but at the end of the day, it's still a filter. What I'm seeing psychologically is still perceived through a filter in my mind. My mind ultimately creates this reality and then attaches a certain, emotional footprint. It gives color based on what I expect to see there. If I recognize this car outside as being mine, my mind produces also the emotional state associated with my belongings. If you were to see the same car, you would have a different perception of it. Yes, you would see the same car, but the way you would feel about it, the way you will, create a positioning related to the car would be completely different. So I challenge you to make it less about you and make it more not about them, but about us. It's not about you, it's about us. We are both sharing, if you want, the human condition. We are both limited in terms of our perception and understanding of the world. And we all do the best we can to find comfort, safety, and ultimately love. And the most important source of love, it's not out there. It's not in the validation of someone who is as flawed as you are when it comes down to understanding the world. The source of love that you really need to find is within yourself. If you find love within yourself, then everything else flows from that. Because you get to then perceive the world through this better filter, which is not always judging, always contrasting, always comparing. You perceive the world through this filter which says us, which says we are all the same ultimately. We are all flawed human beings in progress of being evolved, right? We are being evolved by the evolutionary process, and we are evolving ourselves consciously through this kind of discussions, through exchanges which are not meant to create separation, but rather to create understanding, to facilitate better understanding. And sometimes you have to think about concepts, right? You have to understand why things are different, why the brain, at least I need to understand it like that. Why the brain functions like that? Why is the mind projecting stuff outside which are not real? Why do I have a distorted view of reality? Why not everyone else is sharing my own understanding of the world? Why some people are ignorant to some topics and others are not? Why some people are passionate about stuff and others are not? And that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of it. This is how life gives, the opportunity of infinite manifestations, and all of them are real in a way, and none of them are real in an absolute way. We are all real for ourselves. This is all we have, right? From my subjective point of view, my own version of reality, my own comprehension of the world is everything I have. My subjective experience of the world is everything I can possibly have. Everything is filtered through it. And yet, the simple realization of seeing clearly how other people are just sharing the condition gives me this relief of not having to compensate for anything. Everyone lives in their own universe, in their own perfectly subjective, unique universe manufactured by their brain and their mind. Everyone, operates based on their own understanding of the world, based on their own judgments, belief systems, values, which are true for them and represent the truth for them. And that's how it should be. And I think this understanding just allows you to expand your own mind. This non-attachment to your personal positioning is more inclusive, more open, right? More curious. It gives you the humility again to allow others to feel and see and believe whatever they want and whatever they can, ultimately. Everyone is always operating at their own level of consciousness, and they are filtering the world through that level of consciousness, through the implicit filters of that level of consciousness. And that's not good or bad. Labels are useless, are irrelevant, because labels come from contrasting and from positioning and from having a value system that you project onto others, and you judge others by that value system. Who then should judge? Who created the world? Right? We are God's creation. Whoever is God for you, I am equal with you from that point of view. And if God created the world and implicitly created everything within it, it means that I should not take on me, on my shoulders, the weight of making the world right, because it is right already. And the world that I'm perceiving is my world, and it's not better than your world. And then this is the end of suffering, right? What is it to dispute about? What is it to argue about? To what end? For what reason? Why should I convince you of anything? Why should you convince me of anything? We are all in this together, and you can make this as operational as you want. I know I make it operational because knowing this intellectually, analytically, allows me to catch myself whenever I go into the default mode of operating, which is to contrast, to position, to argue, to create narratives, to put myself into a better light. And if I understand that this is the truth, that I don't hold the truth, that no one holds the absolute truth, that we are all inheriting the human condition, and that we are all experiencing the world through our own perfectly subjective filters, then there is nothing to fix. There is nothing is broken. My own subjective evolution in this lifetime is as flawed and as messy and as interesting as everyone else's. And at some point it ends, and there is no there, and there is no target to reach. There is nothing to accomplish first in order to. There is nothing to postpone. There is nothing to wait for. Everything happens now. And everything is complete now. And everything will ever be complete only now. No matter how many achievements you have, no matter how many conversations and arguments won you have in your life, no matter how much you will prove others that you are right, nothing will change the real satisfaction you get in life ultimately, which is from accepting that there is no there, and everything to be enjoyed is in this very moment, however it presents itself. This is where life happens, if you want. And that's all there is. And life is all encompassing, life is all containing, life is all allowing. You are part of it. One finite manifestation of it, but nevertheless you are part of it. And just by recognizing this true quality and this true nature gives you the peace of mind, gives you the relief from having to fix stuff, from solving stuff. And I'm talking from my own experience of life, where I thought I had to fix everything, where I had to, to help everyone, to understand, yes, but that should not be forced. That should just come naturally. It should just happen. It should not feel like it's a drag. It should not feel like I have to do it. You don't have to do anything. And yet you do it because you feel called to it, because it feels good, because it feels like you're serving people and it's helpful for others. And you want to experience their joy because their joy is your joy. And that's part of your own personal progress and your own personal evolution. And everyone has their own pace. It takes as long as it takes. Everyone has to bear their own cross, but allow everyone to bear their own cross. People make mistakes, you make mistakes, I make mistakes, but as long as the intention behind whatever we are doing is pure, we are learning from it all the time. And we go through life with this positive attitude, with this positive mindset, if you want, and we learn as we go. And there's no end to it. There's no end to it. And that's the beauty of it. Because if there would be an end to it, imagine what would that mean? You would rush towards it, or would you? Why do you want to finish things in general? Because it gives you some sort of an accomplishment, a feeling of accomplishment. I finished this. Okay, what about life? What about life? Do you want to finish it? Do you want to reach there? Are you ready for that? If not, why? If yes, why? Or how come? Things to ponder, things to reflect on, things to think about, and things to just experience and feel. There is no good or bad, there is no right or wrong, there is only relative truth, partial truth, subjective truth, and that's it. Happy exploration.